and welcome back to Vet Chats, where we help veterans share their awesome stories and make the veteran community a better place. I hope you'll stay tuned to hear how the newest generation is continuing their service. Vet Chats is now available on Reach Across America Radio. We will be played Mondays at 3 p.m. and Mondays at 9 p.m. and Saturdays at 3 p.m. You can find them at Reach Across America Radio, iHeartRadio, or the Odyssey app. Also, the Veteran Workbook is now available. The best place to find it is clicking the link in my bio. Hello, everybody. I hope you had a great weekend. I know I did. I was home all weekend, did a lot of baking, a lot of cooking, got a lot of stuff done, which felt nice. Anyhow, tonight we have a great guest. Her name is Paula, and she is currently a Navy chief in the reserves. So I'm excited to have her on. We are going to be talking a lot about transitions, all the transitions in life, and definitely the one out of the military, and just getting into a lot of good stories. So I hope you'll stick around, and if you have questions, you are more than welcome to ask. So let's get Paula on so I can have her help her share her story. So I just invited her on. We should see her any moment. I see she just joined. Hey, Paula, I just invited you. Okay, your request. I got a blanket on. I am cold, you guys. Here we go. Hey, Paula.
Hey, how are you? Let me just fix this a little bit.
There we go.
Perfect.
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
What's that?
I said, I'm doing good. How are you
I'm
doing?
good. I'm good. Just happy to be here. Thank you so much for having
Oh,
me. Hello.
absolutely.
Oh, I see
I,
a couple people here that I know. Yay.
yes, they're all joining now that they see you live. Hello,
Oh
Paula.
my gosh. There is a person that I went to middle school with in Colombia. Paula Ferreira. Oh my God. Hola, nena. Gracias por estar aquí.
How cool is that? Oh, someone said bad service. Maybe it'll get better.
I hope so. Oh my God, because I'm connected to my Wi-Fi.
No, I'm seeing you fine. I'm hearing you fine in real time. Um, Maybe it'll catch up. It always
Hi.
lags a little bit.
Yeah. Hi, Mary. I have one of my sisters that went to through season with me.
You know
Yay.
what I found out when I posted you this morning? Ingrid, somebody that I met down in
Yes.
Norfolk, she knows you. She was like, "What a small
Yes.
Navy." How
Yes.
cool is
And
that?
the funny part about that, I met her through my friend, but then she and I grew up not too far away from each other. It's funny that we never met in Miami. We actually met in the Navy, but we know people in common. It's crazy. Small
It's
world.
a small world, and she was also stationed with my cousin who's in the Marines on a ship too. So
Really?
like, super small world there.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, he said, Austin said it was my service. You guys
Oh,
are good. All right,
awesome.
awesome. So Paula, let's get into it. So
Yeah.
you were originally born in Colombia and
Yes.
you ended up joining the Navy. So what was it like growing up there and how did you eventually end up in the US?
Yeah. So I moved here. Well, I moved to Miami when I was 13. How was it to live there? So it was, I'm not, my upbringing there was actually really nice. My parents were established there. Mom and dad had their own thing going on. We lived in a pretty good area. We had a good school, and then things happen. Financial problems happened,
Mhm.
and I was very young to know what happened. Eventually as an adult, I learned a little bit better what happened, but it put us in a situation where it was a lot of lows and a lot of highs, and it was a little bit not as stable as parents would like to have for their children. So eventually my parents had to make the decision. My dad had already come to the States probably when I was 11 years old, and then my mom decided to just send us with my dad. So I was my sister's here in the call, Andrea. She and I are twin sisters. We're fraternal. So yeah.
That's so cool.
So mom said, okay, guys, you're gonna go with your dad, and that was hard, leaving mom behind. She at that moment was going through the process of getting her green card, being sponsored by one of my older sisters. I have a lot of siblings. So one of them was sponsoring her. She lived here in the United States, and it just takes a lot longer from an adult child to a parent.
Yeah.
So my mom had to stay in Colombia, wait for that a little bit, and button up a couple things. Then Andrea and I moved here to the United States. We did seventh grade. That's where we both started. It was a culture shock. Holy crap! Because it's not like the movies. I remember Andrea and I had a T-shirt. It was very in Colombia to have T-shirts from different countries. So I had a Brazil or Chile one, and Andrea had a Brazil one. And I remember hopping on the bus and the kids asking, like, "Oh, are you from Brazil? Are you from Chile?" And we're like, "No, we're from Colombia." And immediately they were like, "Well, we don't do that here. Like, if you're from that
Oh,
country, yeah, it's like you wear what you're like from the country, so you will represent your country." It was like really ingrained in the whole
yes.
identity thing.
Oh,
And in my
yeah.
mind, I was brand new. I was like, oh, I had no clue. And then there was like a feud against Colombians, and I'm 13 years old. I'm like, what's going on? Then a friend of mine, she's still friends with me till this day, and she got jumped. And I went crying to my dad. I'm like, he's like, I hate you. This is the worst mistake. Like, well, I want to go back home.
Right.
Oh, it was terrible. But fast forward, obviously it was the best decision. It was definitely it's what gave me my future, and my sister, and that's why I'm here today. Oh, hi, Kaylin! Yay! Oh, I'm so happy. A lot of people are tuning in. Yay! I'm so happy to have you guys.
That is
Um,
awesome. Yes, show Paula support.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's been, oh my God, my boyfriend, go away. Um, so that's pretty much it. Like we moved, did middle school, high school. Um, there was a Navy, the JROTC in high school. I did not join. I thought it was so silly. I had a lot of,
Really?
yes, yes.
And
I
look at
like
you now.
ate my words, right? I used to make fun of them because they used to wear their pants really high up. It's so silly. You're a
Yeah,
teenager. I was too
right.
cool for that.
Hmm.
And one of my best friends, Laura, she would, oh, hi. Oh my God. There's so many people. Sorry. It was one of my boyfriend's sergeant first classes. There you go. I'm trying to remember the
Oh,
army ones.
right.
Bonita Rican. Yes, all the way from Colombia. So yeah, so my best friend Laura, she did the whole Navy thing. She actually, after graduating high school, got a scholarship to Norwich University. So she was going to be, an officer. And things happened. Well, unfortunately, she couldn't finish. She's doing amazing, working for a really great company. I love her. She's my inspiration. But I kind of picked up her dream and went with it. We always talk about that, how I ended up doing what she wanted to do. She was very big with the Navy. And I didn't really join because of my friends, because I saw a lot of my friends. I I don't know why the Navy. I think it was I started seeing a lot of funny story. I wanted to work with like space exploration, and I saw that doing my research. And NASA, like not, I never pronounce it. NASA,
Oh,
right?
NASA.
NASA. There you go. I
There
always
you go.
pronounce this wrong. So NASA. I was very young. I was like, oh, everybody is in the military,
Mhm.
and most of those people were in the Navy. And I'm like, maybe I could be a naval flight officer. I knew I was 50. I'm 5'2", and 62 inches was the minimum.
Wow.
So I was like, maybe I'll be an officer, but I wasn't a citizen. Yeah.
Okay.
So a little bit going back to the story of how I came here. So because my mom didn't have her green card yet, I ended up overstaying my stay. So, I know it's a little touchy subject for a lot of people, but I ended up being illegal here for a very long time. And I didn't get my green card until I was 21 years old. So my options weren't really, I didn't have that many options. I was
Yeah.
working odd jobs. I think at the one moment I did pay one credit for college out of pocket, and it was just so expensive. I was like, this is
Yeah.
impossible. I'd always had like really big dreams and aspirations, but I'm like, oh man, this is expensive, and trying to get like, jobs under the table. I really own my story now. I was very ashamed of that before because, there's always that stigma.
Right.
But being from Florida, a lot of people, and especially young kids, were in my same shoes.
Hmm.
So, you didn't feel like it was still
Exactly.
scary, but you still feel like, okay, it's I'm not the only one.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
And
so,
then,
oh
mhm.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so then I got my green card. I remember like it was yesterday. My mom, so for any Hispanic in the call, your mom never knocks at the door. She just opens doors.
Mhm.
And my mom this time, she knocked on the door, which I thought it was very odd, and she had her hands behind her back. And that told me right there that she had something really special. And she just gave me my envelope and she had my green card. And that was like, it just felt like, wow, like the door, like metaphorically just opened. And because it's very scary. I know we were very scared for some, like the laws were cracking down a lot more. I was
Mhm.
scared to drive, scared to travel. I went on my senior, what is it, not a senior trip, but like my government class took us to Washington, D.C., and we were so scared of me flying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because I was in high school still. But
Mhm.
finally, I get this green card, and the first thing I do is go to a recruiting office. And I walked into the Navy and I said, I want to sign up. And my green card was still in the envelope. I didn't even take it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And how did they react to that? They were like, "All right, let's do
Yeah.
it," or
So it's funny so I was a very, for, because there's a recruiter in the call, if she's still in the call. I was such a complicated and difficult applicant. I walked in there at 21. I didn't leave until I was 23. So
was that
I
you were
it was,
asking
yeah,
questions or making sure you were getting what you needed?
yeah,
Good for
yeah,
you.
and then yeah, and also because I something was going on at home, and I kind of wanted to be with my family a little longer. And then there was something that I did. It was totally my fault. I'm not gonna share it right now, but I that's why I actually was gonna go aviation, right? And I
Okay.
ended up being completely scrapped from that contract, and then I came back to the DEP program as an electrician's mate.
I have a
Yeah,
similar story.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, my life will be so different. Good for you, make the recruiter. Oh, I definitely made that recruiter. So it's funny because I had a chief call. It's funny. He's like, I don't want you in my Navy because I did do something wrong. It was really silly of
I
me.
had someone say that to me too. It was a chief.
Yeah, and you know what? Because I was very confident. I had like my ASVAB scores in the 80s, so I knew that I
Yes.
was a hot
Like
commodity.
I'm worth
Okay.
something.
Yeah, I was very sassy. I'm like, you know what? There's like three other branches that are will probably take me. I don't think that person like that. But
Ooh.
eventually, I think they needed someone to fill the spot, whatever, because, eventually the recruiter called me, said, hey, are you still willing to, give it the Navy a shot? And I'm like, sure, why not? And then we restarted the process. Most of it was already done. So I just needed to like kind of refresh a couple of medical things and then get classified again. I found electrician's mate. Most of the ratings that were available at that time was like flight deck, and I knew that much that was a little bit like I did not want to do that.
Yeah.
I love my aviation people, but oh, I did not want to do that.
No.
um,
Our
so
ASVAB
yeah,
score is too high for
yeah.
that.
I was like, no, I'm a smart cookie. So I went as an electrician's mate. I knew that, what if I did love it? I know that I was going to come out knowing a trade. And, again, I was 23. So I did research a lot. I knew that I was going to get my citizenship. Like what, so at that time when we were in times of war, like, you know, technically, one day of active duty is what I needed to void so when you get a green card, I don't know if it's like that still, but when you get a green card, you wait 5 years in order to apply for U.S. citizenship or naturalization. So joining the military and just by being in boot camp, it wastes my time, and then I can just go apply for citizenship.
Oh, that's
Yeah, Yeah.
Cool.
So I knew that. And then what I didn't know at that time is that boot camp was offering that, like, hey, who wants to be a citizen? And I was like, oh my God, me, like 2 arms and everything. So I actually got my citizenship while I was still in boot camp. So that was really cool. I don't know if they're still doing that. I know for a while they kind of stopped it. And then I don't know, I think this year, I think they started doing it again in boot camp. I mean, you can still do it. You don't need to do it in boot camp. It's just the Navy will pay for it and obviously it's
Mhm.
expedited for
Yeah,
you.
and they
So it was
absolutely
really
should.
cool. I remember, oh my goodness, there was this one girl. She had already graduated. She's still my friend today. I asked her if she could please take a photo, and I still remember my dad's phone number. Take a photo and send it to my dad because obviously on boot camp I didn't have my
Oh,
phone, and
yeah.
that's that one picture that I had of me with my little flag. It was really emotional, because you're in your
Yeah.
uniform. Not only did I raise my hand to serve my country, but then I raised my hand to be a U.S. citizen in my uniform. So I hold that really, really dear to my heart.
Yes, that is so
Yeah.
special and so deserved, That's awesome. That is really cool.
No,
Um,
my boyfriend's there. Like, no, I got it in basic training. Okay, so it's like you get it after. Okay, so in the army you get it after. Okay, that's good to know. There you go. So they
oh,
still have it. It's a really great. I know a lot of people don't want to join right now, but it changes lives. I know it changed my boyfriend's life. It definitely. I'm very confident that I would have had a bright future not in the military, because that's just who I am. I think that I would have, but I really think that the path that I chose. I'm just really grateful. I just
yeah,
not there's not worth to look back and see what could I have done.
exactly.
Because what I have done so far, I'm just so happy about it.
And you're where you're meant to be. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it seems like that's why I made the theme of this like life's transitions
Yes.
because you have your transition from Colombia to Miami, then your transition, from civilian to military while also from to full citizenship. So
Yeah.
it's like transition, and then you also have. So what was it like when you first got in the Navy? How was your experience in once you were in?
Ooh. So boot camp was it's a blur. I mean, I think the shocker for me was that I was a little older. Not that that's a problem because there was somebody that was in their 30s when I went through, but it was that I was just more focused. I was just there
Hmm.
to just do whatever I needed to do and get out. Meeting so many different people. I think one of my bunkmates, I don't remember where she was from specifically, but she was from a very, very small town. And I remember her telling me, I was like, I have never seen so many people of color because in
Hmm.
where she was from, it was just mainly white people.
Yeah, that,
And
that was like
to,
me. Yeah.
and to me, because I moved to Miami, which is a melting pot, I mean, I have people that look like me everywhere. So I didn't
Yeah.
have that shocker that a lot of people coming from other countries have coming to a town or state that is just mainly other people that don't look like them. So that was like it was I like that I had that exposure very early on because I already knew that we all come from different places. I came from a completely different place, but then just adding an extra layer to that.
Hmm.
So I that was one thing that was like different. What else? I was just very proud. It was hard being away from family. I always thought I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be fine. But it's always hard. It's always hard to be far away from your family. At that time, my parents were going through some financial issues, and I know they kept it from me while I was in boot camp. So when I got out of boot camp, I knew I was like they moved places and everything, and I was like, oh man, like what happened? So, but I knew that they were very proud and they were very happy that I chose something that was going to give me a little bit more stability than what we
Hmm.
had. I mentioned that we had a lot of highs and we had a lot of lows, but my dad always tried to do the best he absolutely could for us. But that came with a lot of instability. Like
Hmm.
he tried to like my parents lived a little bit above their means sometimes, and that just put us in a rough spot. And joining the Navy was probably the first time I had just a security blanket. Like I had
Right.
a meal, breakfast, lunch,
Mhm.
and dinner. I had where to sleep. Nobody was gonna kick me out. Nothing. Um, it's funny, sir, because we did, I'm not trying to put my dirty laundry here for my family, but it's just happened. It's part of my story.
Absolutely.
Um, we got evicted a couple times, and I remember when I was in A school, and I'm like coming back from A school, and there's a yellow paper on
Oh,
the
no.
door. My birthing, and my first thought, because I'm so traumatized, was like, oh my God, am I getting kicked out of my room?
Oh no.
And I was like, and then I read it. It was just a hit. I slept with my mascara on, skincare sin, and I left some mascara on my pillowcase, and it's a hit. Like we took a hit.
Oh,
But I
a
thought
room
I was
inspection.
from the room inspection. But
Oh
I thought
my
I was like, oh my God, am I gonna get kicked out of my room? And I'm never gonna forget that. That was funny. But it's
God.
not gonna happen. You're always gonna have where to sleep in the Navy.
Yeah,
Whether it's a really crappy bed in the ship, but it's your bed.
exactly. It's yours unless you have to hot rack.
Yeah,
Which
I didn't
as
have to. Oh
girls
yeah,
do, we
actually,
don't have.
I did kind of have to do that when we were in the yards.
Oh,
We had to do the duty section, and we definitely had to share berthing. So every day somebody else was in that bunk. Yeah.
oh man. But you like changed the sleeping
Oh,
bag out or
but
something.
yeah, I definitely. So at that time, I wish I would have known about the sleeping bag before, but I used to just bring my own sheets.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so I used to bring my own sheets, and then they start providing sheets and stuff. But then I learned eventually about my sleeping bag, which I still have. I still
That's
have
funny
my
because I just threw mine out last week. I found
really.
it in our camper and I was like, oh, I gotta get rid of
Yeah,
this.
I don't mine. It was still. I kept it very. I washed it and I kept it in the where comforters come, like the little baggie with the zipper.
Yeah.
So it was very well protected.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it was hard for me even. I was like, I don't want to get rid of this. It went around the
it's
world.
memories. Yes,
But it
yes,
was it was all moldy. It was left in a camper that had rain damage. I
yeah.
needed to just throw it out. But it was
But
hard.
yeah, yeah. They're saying you will keep your memories.
That's
uh,
right. That's right. You can't take
Jamie.
that
Oh,
away.
my friend Jamie. That was my first mentor. Jamie
Oh, how cool.
Amparo. Yes, she's been my friend since I was like fresh out of A school
Oh,
when I
that's
moved to
awesome.
Virginia. Yeah.
I love
Yeah, well,
you.
so my A school was here and well, not here in Chicago, but it's Great
Okay.
Lakes. So I only did a little trip and my school was in the engineering school here in Great Lakes and then I went to Virginia. Spent some years there in an aircraft carrier. I was in the Abraham Lincoln. We were in RCOH, so it was a whole overhaul, and it did not look like a ship in the beginning, but it still looks. It. I remember the walking. So, so we were in it was a school, right, Jamie? It was a school that got turned into barracks, and it was just gross. But anyways, it was a barracks. Well, not Jamie's. Jamie was a second class. She got to go
Okay.
home. I got to sleep
Right.
in this place. But we were there for a while while we were getting our badge. And yeah, so then I go to the ship and I remember just walking and it was like all the shipyard and then I see the big ship and I can see the island and it just looks so mighty. But then you go in and it's like it looked like an industrial, like it just looked really it did not look like a ship. Eventually when it started looking like a ship, I was like, oh wow, this is really nice.
Yes. Yeah, when they're in the shipyards like that, it's like a whole nother world. It looks like this thing will never run.
Yeah, I know. I remember when we left the yards. I was so like, I was so excited and I told my DLCPO, he happened to be standing next to me. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm no longer a shipyard sailor because we're literally leaving, right?
Yes.
So yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty cool. I think the only thing that sucked during that time was another transition, right? You're leaving the yards where the contractors own everything. You're really just there to support, and then you start owning all your equipment and getting
Mhm.
qualified and just really owning your ship, right? This is that sense of belonging that you should have with your ship because it's no longer it's just you. Like if there's a fire, it's you. It's not the ship.
Mm-hmm.
the shipyard, firefighting. No, it's you. So that was another like transition and just getting to know your job a little more. And you've been in a carrier, like it's just so many people. So it's not like when you're in a small ship where you know your job like the back of your
Yeah.
hand. So that was I think a little I was a little self-conscious a little bit just because going up in rank and then just wanting to know more of your grade, but it just wasn't possible for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
I know I made second class and they're like, oh, here's a work center, and I'm like, oh crap, okay, like that quick. Like
Yeah.
they didn't even let me be there for a few days because there was just such a quick turnover. And
Mm-hmm.
then another person left. He's like, here's this other work center, and then they put someone else. So it was just quick transitions, and I think the Navy does help you be more flexible and quick on your feet,
Yes.
and to be resourceful. Like you have to figure it out. Like you sink or swim.
Yes, yeah, because you never know. I mean, your job could completely change from one day to the next. If you get changed departments or if you get
Yeah.
called to mess decks, like you just never know.
Yeah,
You could be anywhere on this ship.
exactly. So yeah, so this is just a lot of transitions. There was a time where I wanted to leave the military. I was like, "Ugh," didn't want to do it, and then
Was
just
something going on or
yeah. So I had so disclaimer. This is a little bit of like a sexual harassment, sexual assault topics. So if somebody feels uncomfortable, by all means. You can leave. I don't want to trigger anyone. I'm not gonna go into detail, but I did have very like I mean, literally 2 weeks into the ship, I had a situation happen where my work center supervisor just tried to. There was sexual harassment,
Mhm.
and it could have been sexual assault, and thank God it didn't happen. And I'm very fortunate,
Yeah.
but it really did put it's what dictated what my first tour was like.
Hmm.
Uh, because I was labeled many not nice things,
Hmm.
and I didn't feel supported by a lot of people in my division. I didn't have the leadership that I wish I would have had. Because even though I didn't tell my leadership like, hey, this is what happened, but they knew something was wrong. They knew somebody was not treating me respectfully. They knew a lot of things, and it could have been handled differently. I could have
Hmm.
had a voice. I think the thing that I learned the most of that experience was I need to have a voice. And I was 24, 23 to 24. So I thought, my man, if I'm in my almost mid 20s and I'm having a hard time, I can't imagine what it is for someone straight out of high school that are leaving their home and their safety to come here, and then something like this happens to them. Like I just can't imagine. So I it took one person. It took one person to realize that something was going on. They took me out of that environment and put me in their work center, and it was a little bit hard to get out of my shell,
Yeah,
because
especially
I was just
something like that.
hmm it was. I started going to school. Like I didn't care about TA, like because I was too junior. Like I know right now in the Navy is a lot more stricter, but hi Clarita. She's one of the people I go to school with. Oh, I see people that I know. Hello. Where was I? Oh, so I was going to school. I was just going to college. I had already a whole year of college. I think I skipped on that when I got my green card and I didn't go to the military because I did my research. I knew that if I had at least 15 credits of college, I think it was 15 back then, I would have go in as an E2 and not an E1. So I applied for financial aid and I got a whole year for free in my community college. And I was like,
Good
oh,
for
good.
you. That's so smart.
So I came in as an E2 because since I didn't leave that first contract, remember, because I messed up.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to wait. Maybe that's why I waited so long. I was trying to finish school.
Yeah.
And
Why not?
I finished that 15 credits. I came in as an E2, and that's why it was a little by the time I got to the ship, I took the E4 exam, and I didn't make it the first time up, but I made it the second time. So, okay, he said it's the same 15 credits. I got my recruiter here. My boyfriend works in
We got the
recruiting.
fact check.
Yeah, yeah, good. Keep me honest. So, yeah, so I did that. I went to school. I kept to myself. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I was very disappointed in the Navy. I thought I was gonna find a family, and instead I find that I found,
Yeah.
yeah, and I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to get anybody in trouble. The situation had a little bit of underage drinking. I had no clue. Later you
Yeah,
realize I'm
because
like,
you
oh
were
man,
of age.
I was of age, but I'm so junior,
Mhm.
right? I'm coming with all these kids.
Yeah.
That's what happened when I was in A school. I could not go out with most of these people because they're all doing
Yeah.
whatever the hell they're doing.
And you
And
would be in trouble.
because yeah. So I was like, so I actually stayed at the barracks a lot.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and then I found friends. I think like finding like that community and somebody that you feel comfortable with. That's
Yeah.
what helped me a lot. I found I don't know if she's in this call, but maybe she'll see it later. One of my friends, she and we went to high school together. We were in different classes, but we ended up going to the same ship. But we really didn't get close until like all that stuff was happening.
Mhm.
And she became my best friends. We're still really good friends.
Aw.
And I found a couple other friends in that work center. One of our friends, unfortunately, Christian Velasquez, he's not here with us anymore, but I talk to him. I tell him all my accomplishments. Because I know he was always so proud of me,
Mhm.
and he got me through a lot of the stuff, talking to me and just believing in myself more than I believed in myself at that time.
Yeah.
So that's how I got through. And then an NC, no, he wasn't an NC. It was a department, like a counselor, maybe like a career counselor for a department. He didn't do his job of doing the whole like my Navy. It was a CMSID, whatever, and I
Mhm.
got selected automatically to reenlist. So I got my quota accepted. I was like, okay, cool. You're gonna continue being an EM, and I'm like, but that's not what I wanted because after all that stuff happened, I did not want to
Yeah.
be in engineering. I just had such a bad taste. I'm
What
very
did you want
proud.
to do?
Um, Honestly, I always wanted to either do like MC or even
Right.
I thought about LN because I already was almost done with my associates, so I know that that would have been like a requirement to do your associates.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool
yeah,
too.
I
That's
thought about
lawyer, right?
yeah,
Or
yeah,
legal men.
yeah, legal men. There
They're
you
pretty
go.
rare, just like the MCs are like media people.
Yeah, because so when I started school, I thought I wanted to be a mechanical engineer. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. And then after being engineering, I'm like, I realized that I like people more than I like machines. So,
Right. They don't
so
talk back as much.
yeah, you're right. I mean, I really like knowing. So I love science, I really do. But I realized that I think I have more a little bit of a gift with people.
Hmm.
I didn't realize this until maybe a few years ago when people would just tell me like, "Hey, you're why you should try like maybe being a therapist,"
Oh,
or
yeah.
like, "Wow, like what you just said was really like they would just tell me things, and I'm like, oh, I never saw it like that." Or I will tell my best friend something like she was going through a hard time, and she told me like, I'm like, I've been to my therapist, and she did not make me look at this in the way you did. And then I was like, oh wow, like this is
Yeah.
a big compliment,
Say thank you. That'll be $100.
right?
Yeah. So eventually you re-enlisted, right? And where did you end up going?
I ended up going to Gray Lakes, so the place that nobody wants to go to. I actually picked it. I wanted to come here because I know it was near Chicago, and I always wanted to live near Chicago because big city. And I don't know. I honestly, when I was in A school, I remember this. I told myself like I'm gonna come back here. I really like it. It was pretty. It looked really nice.
Oh, you
I
don't
really
hear
liked
that
it.
too often.
Yeah, no,
It's
it's a
nice.
lot. There's a lot of history in that base. There's really a lot of history, and I ended up choosing that one. There was another billet, but um, for Monterey, California, but it wasn't. now I know I was an instructor one, but it wasn't like teaching. So I'm glad I got this one because I actually got to know more a little bit more about my rating. So I learned a lot more about being an electrician's mate. So that was really cool. I made first class, and that was like I was not expecting that. I made second class in the ship, and then I come here to this command literally 3 months after I take the test, and I make it, and I make first class, and I was like, oh
Oh,
wow, like this was quick.
yes.
uh, but I was really happy. You just it is what it
Hmm.
is, and it's a command where there's a lot of people, there's a lot of second classes, there's a lot of first classes. So, if you do want to shine, it's not hard. You just have to try.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
it is short duty, but being an instructor, it is challenging. You're dealing with students. You have to keep up with the curriculum. It's not something that you just go and chill. Like there was just no chill there.
No, it sounds like a lot, but you got to work with people,
Yeah.
so I could see how it would be more rewarding for you.
Yeah, it was really cool and seeing like everybody graduating. And then you're also learning, like you really have to learn about people, like how they learn, how are you
Mhm.
explaining something, how I learn, because I'm learning a lot of material. Like I've only been in one ship, and here I am teaching people about things from other ships. So it does touch a little bit on that like imposter syndrome, like wait, I don't know this. How am I going to explain it to you?
Yeah.
But I mean, you have to do with you have a tech manual. We all learn with tech manuals. Where I mean, if you're in the Navy, or any service really, it's your tech manual, your publications. That's how you're gonna learn. Thankfully, we had a couple of props too. Like you kind of brush up on your troubleshooting. YouTube, I like YouTube a lot of stuff. I asked friends like This is the thing that you learn in the military. Like you're not alone. You're not the only person.
Hmm.
You have people that have been in destroyers and cruisers and
Yeah.
amphibs, and you can ask them like, "Hey, are you in the ship? Can you take a picture?" Like I actually asked someone that. I'm like, "Hey, are you in the ship?
Oh,
Can you like take a picture? Can you show me how this works?" And
yeah,
it worked.
wonderful.
Yeah, so you have to be resourceful. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, because that's a great point. Because having to learn so many different platforms and then teach
Yeah.
students that are brand new to the Navy, that's a huge task.
Yeah.
So through that, you decided to transfer to the reserves, correct?
I did. I did. So it was a hard decision. I So when I was in shore duty, I had a blast, and then COVID happened.
Oh,
So COVID happened, but right before COVID happened, my mom started getting really sick. She had already been sick for a couple of years, probably
mm,
since I was like 11 years old. So it wasn't new to us, but then this time when my dad sent us a message, my mom had 6 children, and he sent us a message to all of us saying, I think it's time for you all to come home and
mm,
be with your mom. Not necessarily like, hey, this is it. No, but it was like, oh, this is serious.
mhm.
So we all but one sibling lives here in the States. My brother lives in Colombia. So he traveled from Colombia, and then we all just flew into not Miami, but it's called Pembroke Pines. It's like 40 minutes away from Miami. And we were just with my mom. She was in and out of the hospital. She was put into hospice care. We tried to put her in like a natural hospice. I don't know. It was like a nursing home kind of hospice care. And she did not like it. She's like, take me out of here. And then she's like, I want to go home.
Yeah.
So thankfully, the insurance will cover that because I didn't know that, right? But there's a lot of people that can't do that. Like they have to come out of pocket to have hospice and nurses and this
Yeah.
and the other thing. And thankfully, my whatever insurance my mom had or my dad, it was possible. So she had a nurse at night. She had a nurse like throughout the whole day, and then without making it too long, she passed away. I She passed away. We thought she was gonna be with us a little longer, and it was right before COVID. So COVID, I think it was announced on the 16th of March. that we had a pandemic, and my mom passed away March 13.
Oh my God.
And I was leaving that day actually. I was leaving March 12th, and I remember my mom's friend was there, and she said, "Hey," I told her, like, like, you have just something in your heart, right? Like that intuition or that gut feeling. And I told him, like, "Hey, like, I don't want to leave." It's like, "What do I do?" And she said, "What does your heart tell you?" And I said, "I'm gonna stay." So I called my chief at that time. He's retired, Chief Bell. And I said, "Chief, I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna hop on this train. I mean, on this plane. I'm gonna stay home. I really think my mom, she just doesn't have that much longer." And so this is one thing that I really appreciated. Coming from the ship where I went through this sexual harassment stuff and bullying, because somebody bullied the hell out of me based because of this thing. And I had leadership that I didn't think had my back. And then coming to one of the worst moments that a child could go through.
Yeah.
And my chief saying, "Don't worry about it. Be with your mom. I got you." And that's it. We hung up the phone, and I felt like I was taken care of. He did whatever chief things he had to do and talked to the CO. And at that time they were recalling everyone back
Yeah.
to
Oh,
be
that's true.
in their base, right? Because
Mhm.
COVID, everybody had to come back home
Yes.
if they were on leave. So I managed to stay with my family for a few days, be in a funeral, because again, a lot of people did not get that.
No.
Um,
No.
what we didn't think it was a luxury. It was a luxury for you to be with your loved one through COVID,
Mhm.
even in a hospital or being in a funeral.
Yeah.
So I got to do that with my family, with my mom, and it was hard. It was really hard, naturally, and then the following year, my dad passes away,
Oh my
and that one was
goodness,
unexpected.
Paula.
That one was really unexpected. He was traveling. He was traveling to Colombia. It was really hard for him, like, my mom, but he was trying to just be healthier. He had a couple of health issues, but he was good. Nobody ever thought my dad would pass away. And I remember my aunt called me, and she's like, "Nana, your dad's dead." And I was like, "No." And it was really painful. And again, I called my chief. I'm like, "Hey, my dad passed away. I'm not gonna go to work tomorrow. Like, just I need to go home. I need to go with my sister." My sister was pregnant,
Mhm.
so my first thought was my sister. Like, I don't want her to lose this baby because stress, and my sister and my dad were like this. I mean, they still live together because it's very normal in our culture. She was 30 or 20, yeah, 30. It's totally fine. So she's with my dad and pregnant. She had just told my dad that she was pregnant too. My dad was so, so happy that he was going to be a grandfather. And that happened. So to answer your question was, I need to be home because I knew that if I went back to sea, I was going to be out to sea for 5 years. And I don't know
Mhm.
where. I could have been overseas. I could have been, who knows, right? And at the
Mhm.
end, we all know that when you're active duty, uh, yes, you have your 30 days leave. Yes, you can take it whenever, but mission comes first. But in that moment of my life, when I just lost both my parents, and all I could think about was my sister and my nephew,
Mhm.
and what really was important. And I just thought, like, being with my family in the best way I could is first. So,
Absolutely.
and then, and it was hard because I was like, man, I still want to be in the military.
Yeah.
And I thought I was giving up on it because I'm like, man, like, you're active duty. I was going to do 20, I was going to be a lifer.
Mhm.
And that's when I learned a little bit more about the reserves, and I, like, that I can actually transition. I didn't need to do a break in service or anything. And I decided to do the reserves. I did still want to try to cross raid, but I thought the smartest move for me was to keep my rating because I already know my rate. And that was probably the quickest way to the next rank.
Yes. Mhm.
Um, you know, one of the things that my parents left me with was, my mom's last words to me was, "Do not stop dreaming big, and do not let go of your aspirations." And my dad, every single phone call was like, when are you going to put on chief? He didn't even know what all that meant, because I remember when I made first class, he's like, oh, what's next? And I'm like, oh, chief. And he's like, well, what is that? And I'm like, oh, it's a nice pay grade, but that's what they're called, chief petty officer. And so when I was going through the season, I really dedicated that to, yes, to myself, but to my parents, because they always wanted me to go for more. And so like my family too, they were extremely supportive. And so I decided to still try to do both, right? Like I still want to be in the military in a different capacity. It's not full time, like you know how it is when you're active duty, and still pursue what I wanted to do, which is mental health counselor. I'm trying to finish my bachelor's to try to pursue a master's after to be a mental health counselor. Because when my parents passed away, I don't know how I would have done it had I not already been seeing a mental health counselor.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that is, your story is so inspiring, Paula. I mean, I can't think of, you just have so much meaning behind everything you're doing in your life, and you can just see that. And that's what's going to make you like your future patients or clients, you know, they're going to be truly blessed with you because,
Thank you, Jenna. I really appreciate that.
yeah.
It's going to our theme like of transitioning, it was, you know, the reason why we're here today is because I commented on something you put, and you asked that question, like, how was it for you? And I thought I was going to be totally fine leaving the military, active duty, and dive in. And then 6 months later, I had that rude awakening of, holy crap, who am I? I don't have I don't know anyone here, because I actually did not go to Miami. I ended up staying here in Chicago. I met my boyfriend. I decided to give that a shot because during my entire time in active duty, I was like, I do not want to date men. Like I do just, I mean, yeah, I'm young. I dated guys, but I didn't want to be in a relationship. So after I got out of active duty, like 6 months before my contract, I meet my boyfriend, and we just decided to give it a shot. And he's active duty, so he's staying here for a little longer. And I talked to my sister. I remember telling her, I'm like, oh, I don't know, should I go home? Because that was the plan. I was gonna apply to school there, everything. And we talked about it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give myself a chance, because I haven't given myself a chance to meet someone and take that step, whether it works or not. And at that time, it's been almost 2 years since me and him have been together. And yeah. And then that was another huge transition, because it was for me being single. Nobody tells me what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And then I'm with this army guy that is like super rigid. Let's go to the gym at 5 in the morning every day. And I'm like, no, I like to sleep in.
Yeah, I'm half civilian now. I don't need to do that.
Yeah, but it's cool. We kind of make it work. I mean, it's not all. We're both really strong-headed people. We're very like, I like it my way, but we have found ways to make it work, because when I do need his consistency and discipline, he has been able to be a little bit more relaxed, and like taking a break from the gym like once in a while. It's okay.
Yeah.
Or having breakfast in the morning, because he would just go to the gym and come back to work, come back home, and then go to work. And I'm like, hey, how about like some breakfast?
Yeah. So let's sit down. And life's all about compromise,
Oh,
right?
yeah. So I see transition from active to reserve or non-active is rough, but it's great to hear a fellow service member that transition successfully. Thank you so much, Kapachi. Kapakahi, sorry. Yes, it was rough, but you know what? I do want to say that with the transition, like you have to give yourself grace. I jumped in too quick. So I went on a whole month of vacation, and I was like, oh, cool, refresh. I really thought that 8 years of service in a month of vacation was going to be enough. I'm like, no, it's not going to be enough. I jumped in, I got a job full time, great job. I really liked the employer that I worked for. I learned a lot. And then literally 4 months later, I did my first annual training. I went to Jacksonville for 3 weeks, actually almost a month. And it felt like going to active duty again. So I think it was almost like a Band-Aid. And
Gotcha.
Then I
Mm-hmm.
got back and I started school, and I had full-time school and full-time work. And then me and my boyfriend were, we're getting to know each other even more. And then we taste the first, that was like our first real obstacle. It was like me not having time for the relationship as much as I had before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Because
that,
you got a lot on your plate. That is tough.
and that's when everything just kind of like went to crap. And then
Oh.
things with my family, when things with my family were a little rocky. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when I started falling into depression again.
And how did you is that when you reached out, or is that when you went back to therapy?
Yeah, I started, thankfully, when you're, I think if you remember, like you have somebody from the VA always like reaching out to you every so
Yeah.
often and kind of reminding you of all
Mm-hmm.
these things that you have to your disposal. And someone mentioned, hey, you have the vet center. And because I had a sexual trauma, I think that's what they call it.
Yep, MST.
They I qualified to go to a vet center and go reach out to a social worker, just therapy, because I still needed to deal with that also.
Yeah.
But it was really good to know that I had that. I was still waiting for my disability too, because they put my claim like really late. Don't wait that long. um I was very lucky. I started seeing someone, and then I started remembering, because I was going to therapy for a long time in active duty, and I was trying to remember all the tools, right? Because people think that you go to therapy and it's, oh, you're there to like dump everything out, and
Right.
then
You're there to be emotional and cry and talk about all the bad
yeah,
things, but it's
and
so
then
much
you're
more than
fine. No, like if you're going to a therapist that is helping you out, they're gonna give you
that.
tools that you're gonna be able to revisit. So I tried that a lot to just remember those things. And then with therapy, it's been a little better. I'm trying to get back to that again. I'm also seeing a specialist for, I struggle a lot with memory and organization.
Mm.
I think it's because of the depression. You just kind of,
Yeah.
and, and so I've been trying to work with like strategies and things that will work for me, like even like using your phone for reminders and stuff like that, because
Yes.
I was really forgetting stuff. Like my boyfriend, he laughed when I told him like, can we do a calendar? And he's like, but we live together. I'm like, no, no, but listen to me.
Still
If
need
you
a
put it,
calendar.
if you put it in the calendar, chances are I
I
will see it and not forget.
Yep, I told my husband that. I said, send me a calendar invite. He said, you're crazy. I said, no, it will
No,
help me
it's
remember.
not. So he told me in the morning, we're gonna do dinner at 5 or whatever. And I was like, okay, put it on the calendar. And he didn't. And I forgot. I was literally eating dinner at school. And he's like, did you forget we're gonna have dinner? And I'm like, yeah. Like, did you
Yeah,
put it on the calendar?
you're probably like more in the moment, you know.
Yeah. And that creates issues because you're not, it's not that somebody's not important.
Yes,
Um,
and it could come off like that.
yeah, it's just that I don't know. That's just how my mind works.
Hmm.
And you would think that because you're in the military, no, like people forget we're people. Like because we're in the military doesn't mean that we're all copy paste. Doesn't mean that we all
Are all
develop the same
very different.
routine and rigid. We're still people, and because we are trying to transition into being civilian, it's still like we are adjusting to be ourselves again. I'm getting to know myself outside of that schedule. And it's funny because my sister laughed about this. When I had annual training, I packed my suitcase 2 weeks in advance.
Wow.
Everything Navy was in that suitcase, that half of the suitcase,
Yeah.
everything Navy was in the suitcase. Guess what was not packed the day before? Everything else. Everything else, like my
Toothbrush,
toiletries,
pajamas.
all pajamas, all the civvies and stuff like that that was not military related.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is weird. Like, how is it that in the military stuff? Because in my mind, that's just how
Separate.
I compartmentalize that. I'm like,
Hmm.
military, that's done. Like, if you had to tell me I'm leaving in 5 minutes, like you're going underway, like tomorrow, that was done. But all my
Yep.
civilian stuff, so I've had to
I
like just,
relate to that.
yeah,
Yeah, right. It's like that was my space to be messy, you know. These are the clothes that it's like, yeah, I totally get that.
yeah.
So we are coming up on time,
We
Paula.
are.
But I just wanted you to share, and I know you shared a few things that have helped you through all of life's transitions, but if you could give anyone an advice that's in the moment right now
Yeah.
transitioning, what would you say to that person?
Uh, I had a chief engineer tell me this, and I say it to everyone, I say it to myself all the time, is grow where you're planted. I was in
Mm,
so many situations in my life where I was not happy, and all I wanted was to just run. And when I just remember this, like grow where you're planted, like wherever you put yourself, just remember to nourish yourself, water yourself, do whatever it takes for you to grow in the situation. And then just remember that you can repot yourself somewhere else and grow there too. So I didn't want to be an engineer. I grew as an engineer. I didn't want to be this, and I grew, and then it's worked out to it's not like this, oh, everything's gonna be great, but just grow where you're at.
mhm.
You will grow, but you have to be mentally ready and take care of yourself. And then good things are going to happen. You know, you may pivot into something that you will be happier at, but don't, just because you're not happy right now doesn't mean you can be in that daily, your daily journey. Sometimes we get so focused on the destination that we forget
Mhm.
today. And I told this to my friend, it was in her podcast. Don't be afraid if people tell you that you've changed, because
Mm.
I can. When do you see someone walking? Especially us that we live in a place that we see like seasons. When do you ever see someone walking and during fall and saying like, how dare this tree change the color of its leaves?
They get all mad.
Yeah, they was like, when? No, instead you're like,
Yeah.
wow, it's so beautiful, and like, wow, look at this, they're changing. It's
Yeah.
Why do we do that to ourselves and to others? Like, if they're changing, that's their season to change.
Mhm.
Let them grow where they're at, let them shed their leaves, let them do whatever they need to do to get to the next transition and the next season. And that's my biggest one, like grow where you're planted and just go through your seasons.
Yes, honor your seasons. I love that, Paula. That's so
You're
good.
welcome.
That is really good. And I think that's just a great way to tie up this whole conversation. So yeah, Paula, are you open to people following you or reaching out or
Yes, absolutely. So my handle is, let me see if I can put it here. Like if I put hello, will you see it? Yeah. So it's inspiring underscore lotus underscore. It's you can follow me there. I also, like, if you want to email me, I have an email just like for IG, so you can like put email. I definitely love to like talk and like just any way that I can collaborate and speak. Like, I'm very passionate. Like, I love people. I really do love talking. I love to learn, and whatever I can teach with my very short life. I'm very open for that. Thank you so much, Jenna, for this opportunity. It's been really fun. You were right. It was going to be fun. And I'm so grateful for all the people that came to watch and stayed here and, send us their support.
yes, yes, yes. Paula, thank you so much for coming on and being such a light in this world and
Thank you.
sharing your story. To all the listeners out there, I hope you enjoyed her story as much as I did. If you're catching the replay, or thank you for joining the chat, we appreciate all your support. And I hope everybody has a great week.
Yeah.
So,
Bye. Good night.
good night. Bye.